Every betrayal begins with trust. How's it going, everyone? Today we're do a little bit different on this video. I'm going to talk about a few things that maybe I've already touched on before, and we'll get down to it. We'll talk about this, how your betrayal begins with trust, and where all you're actually betrayed at and don't realize it. We're gonna today is November 13th, right? 2024. Excuse me, 2023. And this marks 2 years now. It's been officially 2 years that my complications started with the local government here in Defiance County, with the Sheriff's Department, where they started their violations on me. Exactly 2 years ago today, I was sitting in jail, CCNO, Correction Center in Northwest Ohio, for anyone that doesn't know what that is. And that is the local jail here that it's over next county over, but it services like several counties of this area. And the interesting thing about that jail is that it is owned by, it's a private jail. People don't realize this. It is owned by a select number of investors. And if you break down those, if you look deep into it, those investors just happen to be judges and lawyers and certain people of those standards from these local areas. Like a couple of the judges here out of Defiance County, some out of Williams County, some out of Henry County, and I'm not sure what other counties, maybe Fulton County. They all are actually the owners of this jail, which is now more recently being, they're starting to rent out, if you will, space to the federal districts where they are housing federal criminals. And anyways, 2 years ago today, November 13th, 2021, I was sitting in jail. And the thing about that is, we'll get to this in a little bit, the interesting thing about that is that I was supposedly on November 13th, according to one corrupt officer, one corrupt deputy sheriff supposedly arrested me on November 13th, 2021. Supposedly I violated a protection order that is unlawful protection order that we'll get to here on November 13th, 2021. And that, of course, is not true because I was sitting in jail on November 13th, 2021. My issues first began on November 11th, 2021. I was arrested for supposed domestic violence. And I got out the next morning, and we'll get down to some of the things I found out that are quite interesting to learn about your case when you don't realize things are going on. Anyways, then I got out on the 12th, on about the right around noon on the 12th, and then later that night was arrested again and thrown back in jail for the rest of the weekend. Now, if we go back 2 years, November 13th was a Saturday. And the days I was arrested was, the first day was Thursday night, and the next following night was Friday night. And I spent Thursday night in jail, Friday night in jail, Saturday night in jail, Sunday night in jail. That's 4 nights in jail that I spent for doing nothing wrong, for not committing a crime. Now, where was I betrayed? Like, if anyone's been following any of my cases, any of my videos that talk about my case, is I talk a lot about how these officers violated my rights, unlawfully threw me in jail, all that stuff. But then I got people who know me personally, they want to tell me, oh, like it's the alleged victim's fault. So let's get to that. I was betrayed by the alleged victim, as we'll see, and that began with trust, right? Someone who I trusted and who knew very well how I feel about law enforcement and them interfering in your lives, knew too well how I was and the rules for me, and they because someone I loved and trusted and failed to see their own demons, that failed to realize how much they were controlled by their own demons, and to see their own wrongfulness. Trusted that person, and it landed me in jail, right? This is someone who previously I have myself went up and raised hell with these law enforcement people and risked even throwing myself in jail, and raised all kinds of hell and went off on them, put myself at risk because they supposedly disrespected this person, right? And I wasn't going to have it. So I went up there and come unglued. And that's just the way it is. I'm a little bit known with these local officials. There's a past I had quite a while back where it's pretty common knowledge, especially around this area. We are overramped with the number of police officers we have, far greater of a number than we really need in this area. When it comes to city police, we've got far more number of them than we need. Then we got sheriffs, a far more number than we need, and state police. They spend a lot of time in town here, so within the city limits. So I guess maybe we got more of them than we need to. And so, I mean, one thing, I don't want to get too far off track, but one thing you'll notice, and it's becoming an issue everywhere, is they are ramping up the number of officers they are putting on the force. And, if you can't understand what's going on with that, the thing is, we're being taken over by our government. And they are trying to make criminals out of everyone, and they are turning us all into slaves, and we will bow down to their authority, whether we like it or not. And we are failing to see how corrupt our system is. But anyways, let's back up here. Now, so this person, I have put my own ass on the line for several times, and showed that I had no fear of these local officials, and would turn out to let her demons control her and take over and destroy our lives, right? So this is someone who, so you can get the proper picture. The truth is my rights were violated, and that boils down to, and that falls onto our law enforcement officials and our local government for letting it happen. And so it's their fault. There's no way to take the fault off of them. They are the ones at fault. But for those who want to say you should blame the person that called the police on you, yeah, there is some truth to that, but that's on a personal level, and that's what I'm trying to tell people. There's a difference between your personal and public levels there. So when it's on the personal level, what are you going to do? How you react is on you. And I assure you, if I was a violent person, my reactions would have been much different by now, right? But so you either give them a chance to redeem themselves, or you cut them out of your life. Anyways, so because someone had their own demons that they couldn't fight, once upon a time, we was in pretty good relationship, and then once upon a time Sometimes you find out things about people you don't realize, like what's going on in their heads and the demons they're hiding. Because, so, you know, somewhere along the lines in our relationship, I liked a couple of things a couple of posts on Facebook, right? And by a certain person, and this certain, that's drama is what that is, but so this person just couldn't handle it, and the person that was in my life, come unglued about you liked this couple of posts on Facebook that this person posted, and it was the end of the world, right? And I tried to apologize and make it all right, and it's not the way you're making it out to be, so whatever, right? But there's a certain thing we got to realize about the people in our lives. One, if you're with someone if you're in any form of relationship, whether it be real boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, brothers, friends, whatever, if you have people in your life that you think might call the police on you, might be the type to call the police on you, well, you need to cut them out of your lives. And there's very rare instances that you should really call the police, because the truth is the police do no good, and they're only there to enforce the policies of the government. And if you're with somebody that you feel that you truly feel is a danger to you, that you may have to call the police on, then you need to cut them out of your life. And you need to realize what kind of people you're dealing with. Vindictive people are a lot of times you don't see it coming, and they hide this within themselves. But it was the spirit of vindictiveness that landed me in jail eventually, right? Because I liked a couple of posts on Facebook, and it turned out to be, from there on, nothing but chaos and always strife in the relationship. And eventually it came to the point where I was like, look, I apologized for it. And even though it wasn't that big of a deal, I went ahead and swallowed my pride and said I'm in the wrong. And I totally deleted this person from my accounts and had no more contact with them. And that wasn't good enough for you. You kept, causing chaos within our home. And, so we'll get, anyways, so if you don't like it, there's the door, right? And so eventually I kicked this person out of my home, and, broke our ties from there. And but truly I still had feelings, and the way this person could be manipulative made me feel like maybe I was in the wrong. I started blaming myself, whatever. Well, then a time come around where the place she was staying at ended up, because holidays were getting close and some other relatives was coming in from out of town and needed to stay. She was staying with her mother, and so her reasoning to me was that she had some relatives coming in from out of town, and she really didn't have no place to stay if they was going to stay there. So I said, well, you go ahead and stay here for a few days then, and in the meantime maybe we could work this out, right? Well, that still, it was within a few days of that happening, it turned into a bunch of strife and me being blamed for all kinds of dumb nonsense. And one thing you're going to realize is, if you got somebody that, if you're actually on the up and up and you're doing what you can to do right, and you feel like you're doing everything right, but the other person is constantly accusing you and blaming you of stuff, well, the fact is, many times it's because they have their own skeletons in their closet, and they're doing the things that they are accusing you of, and the way to keep the blame coming from them and to keep that hidden is they're going to blame you for every little thing and twist it around and make it look like that's what you're doing. And that's what was beginning to go on. And so I said, look, I allowed you to come stay here for that, and hoping that we could it was a limited time you're going to be staying here, and maybe that could change if we're able to turn things around and get a grip on this. But now I'm going to work every night, and before I head to work, you're starting arguments with me and stuff. So I said, look, I told you once before, if you don't like it, there's the door. So I don't care how hard it is on you, if you're going to cause me nothing but strife. And but I had agreed to fix her car, and so I ordered these parts for her car, and so that's why so come just the week of November 11th, I think it would have been like a Monday or a Tuesday. I think it was a Tuesday. She was arguing with me about, no, it would have been Wednesday, okay, the day before I first got arrested, and said, kept arguing with me all week long. And then finally Wednesday came around, and I said, look, I ordered the parts for your car, and they're going to be here on Friday. When I get off work Friday morning, I'm going to fix your car, and you got no excuse. You can get in that thing and go, and don't come back. And you're no longer welcome here, because this is how you want to play this off. And sure enough, the next day comes around. I go to work Wednesday night, and I get off work, and we'll get, bear with me here, we'll get down to law enforcement and how the law works in just a minute here. But so Thursday comes around, Thursday morning, I come home, and I'm the only man in the house, right? And I always constantly make sure, out of respect for everyone, whatever, just so I don't have to deal with this stuff, I always put the toilet seat down, right? Come home Thursday morning from work, toilet seat's up, and of course she's in there sleeping, but I notice when I go to use the restroom, the toilet seat's up. Whatever, I keep my mouth, I don't start nothing about it, but then I go ahead and get my shower and go to bed. And later on that day, when I woke up, and I was getting flack from her about some nonsense I posted on Facebook or something like that, right? I don't know. And so I just ignored her, and then I went back to bed for a little bit, and then later woke up again, and as it was getting close to getting time to get ready for work, and she started arguing with me some more. Well, first it wasn't that, it was because the flack she was giving me, I checked something on my Facebook and realized she was playing some game with me, and it was starting to hit me. I'll get to that in a minute anyways. So then I come downstairs, and I'm just waiting, watching a little bit of TV before it's time to go to work, and I'm not saying much to her, so she's like going, trying to egg me on. What's your attitude about? What's your attitude about? And so finally I was like, okay, look, who the hell was in my house last night? Oh, nobody. I guess sworn nobody was in the house. And so I said, nobody at all, huh? Oh, well, my daughter came over for a while. I said, okay, that's, no big deal, whatever. I said, which one of you two have to piss standing up, right? And, and then tries to blow it off like something else. Now, I'm not saying for sure that somebody was in my house. I believe what was going on is I was being set up. And because the day before I said, you know what, come Friday, I'm going to fix your vehicle, and you're going to be out of here because all you want to do is fight with me and pick fights with me. And, when it comes down to it, I was accused of domestic violence, and when I went to this batterer's assessment thing, as they call it, the questionnaire, and I'll see if I can, if I still got copies of it, and I'll post it up, but the questions they asked me, I passed flying colors because I don't do this, no, this ain't what goes on. But the other way around, this person surely does. And this person had, before she had met me, and in a previous relationship she had, was found guilty of domestic violence, and she actually harmed someone, hit him upside the head with something or something like that, right? And she was actually guilty of domestic violence and had to go through whatever. Now, a lot of these times they send them to these state-sponsored batterers courses and stuff, and through those they learn a lot about the system. And so here I was with a vindictive and manipulative person that knew the system, and she was be damned if I was gonna make her leave my house again, right? So I believe I was being set up. It started with a couple of things there, but the toilet seat being left up was one thing, and from there it's getting closer to me to get time to work, and all she wants to do is argue with me and argue with me. And so as I was getting ready to leave for work, she's in my face screaming, you know, at me or whatever. And the truth of the matter is, you're being disruptive in my house, and I need to get to work to pay these bills. You're preventing me from moving forward and leaving. So I went like this to move her out of the way, and then told her, you need to calm down and sit down. Yes, my hands were on her shoulders, and but you know what, I was not doing nothing violent. I said, you need to calm down, sit down, and calm your ass down, or you can just leave right now, otherwise I need to get to work. Well, as I, you know, after that, so then I grabbed my things I needed for work, and I was grabbing my things. As I was grabbing my things I needed for work, she says, you're not allowed to do that. I'm calling the police. I said, go ahead and call them, right? So she, to be a bitch about it, she did. Called the police, called the sheriffs, 911 or whatever, and twisted the story up to 911. You know, after the police ended up showing up, she straightened her story up, and I was nowhere around. I was on my way to work, but she called them and you know, claimed that I pushed her down and was arguing with her instead of leaving to work. And the fact of the matter is, she was arguing in my face, not letting me leave for work. And, you know, so, I mean, whatever, I got nothing to hide. But the only recordings that was ever released, nothing from the police, the only recording that was ever released was a 911 call. And during that 911 call, she twisted it up and said all this and that to get them to come out there, right? Well, so a sheriff shows up there, and when he gets there, she then straightens the story out and says, no, I wasn't hurt. He was arguing, we was having an argument, and I wasn't hurt. And you know, he was only trying to calm me down, and so he could leave for work. She told the truth to them by the time they got there. But there's more sinister stuff that comes in. Anyways, this officer then proceeds to come to my work after she done straighten the story out. And well, my point is, what they used against me is the 911 call, because that's where she was trying to be vindictive to me. And it boils down to what it boils down to is a person, the kind of people that are manipulative and vindictive is they will find whatever reason to get back at you, right? And she was not happy that because I wouldn't do every little thing she thought I should do to make it right about liking somebody's post on Facebook, because that nothing was ever good enough. She was going to get back at me one way or another. She did not like that. I would not cater to her every whim, because I'm and keep admitting that I'm doing something wrong, and did not like the fact that I kicked her out of the house, right? You no longer live here if that's how this is going to be, because I'm trying to have a peaceful, loving relationship, not this nonsense all the time. So then that deputy sheriff, which turns out to be Austin Little, he shows up to my work and, you know, accuses me. First of all, he asked me what happened. I said, well, nothing happened. And he says, well, she's claiming this and that, and goes on telling me she's claiming a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't going on, right? And, well, of course, now I'm like, well, that's a lie, you know. So I straighten the story out, and I say, first of all, she don't live there. I made it clear she don't live there. I said, second of all, I was in my home being peaceful. She was disrupting the peace, and that she had, technically she had no right to be there. And he ignored that, and in his report he puts that we're boyfriend and girlfriend. Even herself said we were, right on the 911 call, that we're ex-boyfriend and girlfriend, right? But he says in the report that I admitted to pushing her, and I did not. When he claimed that I pushed her down and all that stuff, I said, no, sir, I'm in my own house and someone's being disruptive, and this is what I did to calm the situation down. That's not pushing someone. I didn't push somebody down. I said, put my hands on their shoulders and said, you need to sit down and calm the fuck down or leave and never come back, right? And so anyways, what I explained to this officer was my homeowner rights, okay, my property owner rights, and all of us have these property owner rights. If someone is being disruptive and being, how do I want to explain it? You're being violent tendencies, and when you're manipulating somebody, when you're starting arguments with them, and when you are causing them, you're mentally abusing them. I was going through mental abuse, okay, and that can be considered domestic violence. And he had me with no priors, even though all the stuff I've been involved in life and no priors. I'd say that's pretty darn good. I'd say that proves I'm not some kind of violent person, right, that abuses his significant other, and she did have priors, and everything I explained to him was someone in my home giving me mental abuse. That's the person you should have charged. Well, so anyways, what happened there is I trusted someone. I put my trust in them, and that turned out to be betrayal. And it's sad, it sucks, and I wish it wasn't that way, but that's the way it was. Well, so then comes Sergeant Little or Deputy Little into the picture, and arrested me and throws me in jail for the night. Says I caused physical harm, and that's what he put in his report, that I caused physical harm. And then even though his other report, all the officers involved, their reports are contradicting of themselves. And so I spend the night in jail, and I get out of jail, and then I have no intentions of seeing this person, but then before I get out of jail, the court does the thing, and the judge says, and I'm doing this from jail over video conference, and the judge says, and you're not allowed at your home, and we're putting a temporary protection order. And I was like, whoa, what? What do you mean I'm not allowed at my home? I don't understand that. And his reasoning is because you are the defendant and she is the victim. Now we'll get to that. That's not a right to kick you out of your home. And a lot of people don't realize this, and it's a big issue. And anyways, so the next night I get out of jail, and I'm supposed to find a place to stay, right? So I go to my brother's house, and while I'm at my brother's house, I notice a sheriff car comes parked up behind me. And on my way to my brother's house, I passed a sheriff at a scene of an accident on the state road, right? State Route 111 goes through here in Defiance. I pass a sheriff vehicle. He's reporting to some minor fender bender on the side of the road. Well, I mean, it all comes into play in a minute. I'm not thinking nothing. We're supposed to trust our law enforcement officers, right? Well, as it turns out, then my brother, we look out his front window, and he says, wonder why the sheriff's parked behind your truck. I'm like, what? So anyways, I leave my brother's house, and the sheriff's parked right behind my truck, and I was nowhere but my brother's house. And I turn around because I know I'm not supposed to be at my own home, and I turn around in the driveway, my brother's driveway. My brother's house is down the road from my house, but plenty enough distance, right? I turn around in the driveway, and I leave, and I get back out on the state highway. I get a mile down the state highway, and suddenly the sheriff's on my tail pulling me over. obviously he had to break traffic laws to catch up with me, and he comes running up to my truck and says, "What do you think you're doing back there?" I said, "What are you talking about? I was visiting my brother." "Well, you're not allowed to do that." I said, "What do you mean I'm not allowed to do that? You can't be that close to your home, to that property." And I was like, that's bullshit, dude. And anyways, he says, "Well, you know what? I got a call from Deputy Little, saw you pass by him and wanted me to come and arrest you." And that was his reasoning. Now, is it no surprise that this recording does not exist? Except now he claims I admitted. And what happened was, and this is where you cannot, this is where trust leads to betrayal. This officer, he's Sheriff's Deputy Sergeant Mosier right here, right? Okay, we got Officer Little and Officer Mosier. Okay, we'll get to these two in a minute. And he says, during all this, which officer is not allowed to coax you to say stuff. They can lie to you all they want, and it's not illegal. And there's where a lot of people don't realize. Here's something you need to understand: an officer is allowed to lie to you. Like, you got people, "Oh, you got to tell me if you're a cop." No, they don't. They can lie through their teeth, and there is court rulings that protect them already, that they are allowed, and that, in fact, they are trained to lie. Well, but they are not allowed to coax you to say something. And he tells me, I tell him, I said, "Look, man, this is bullcrap. You're just trying to find some reason." And I made it clear to him, that's my home anyway. I was not in that home, but it is my home, and you guys are not allowed to kick me off my home. And, I don't know all the language at the moment, but I know that it's not right that I own that home. I'm the one that works and pays the bills there, and at the time, I'm the only one that technically lives there. You can't kick me out of my home. And he argues with me that, "Oh, it's a court order," right? And that's the thing we got with the sheriffs around here, saying they got to follow what the court says, and that's not true. They got to follow what the voters say. And the thing is, he says, I say, "You're only trying to put me in jail. I'll be damned. I'm not going back to jail. I done spent one night too many in there, right? And you guys threw me in there for no reason yesterday because I was innocent. And I don't know all the law, but I know I'm innocent, right? And I know I didn't hurt nobody. I didn't commit no crime and no violence." And he says, "Look, if I don't want to throw you in jail. If you could just agree that you went into that house for 5 minutes not knowing she was there, well, I could see a reason not to throw you in jail then. I could be understanding about that." And I didn't say those words. I said, "Okay, fine, that's what it was," right? I shouldn't have done that. However, that should be all on the recording, right? From his car recording and his dash cam's recordings, right? Later on, I find out that recording just somehow don't exist. But now Monday morning comes along, and I'm going in front of the judge again through video conference, and the judge goes off on me, calling him a liar. Because the cop said I was told whatever, and I said, "No, I wasn't." That's supposedly calling the judge a liar. And the judge gives me the what for and goes off on me and tells me because of that, I'm going to pay a bail to get out. So I had to wait for somebody to come up with the bail. And the judge did indeed lie to me, because he tells me he's going to allow me access to my phone so I can find a phone number to call somebody for bail. And he never did that. It turns out that my brother happened to be paying attention to the court cases or whatever and seen that I was up for bail. So he called somebody to bail me out. And that's, and if it wasn't for that, I would have been sitting in jail the rest of that day and night. And because the judge had lied to me, Judge Roars, right? And so I asked him once again, "I don't understand why I'm not allowed in my home anyways." I said, "First of all, I was not in that home." And I said, "But I want to know what gives you guys the right to tell me I'm not." "Because you're the defendant and she's the victim," is what he tells me, right? Goes, acts like I'm stupid. Well, first of all, that's not a law, but, they act like they can do whatever they want. So we get down to it, and that goes through, and so I hire a lawyer, Nicholas Fee, and out of Bryan, and he, assures me, oh yeah, sounds like a pretty easy case, right? Until I give him my money, then suddenly he's trying to talk me into a deal for the prosecutor. Now, okay, so now as it turns out, as I find out later, is that this alleged victim was having that the officer that arrested me the first night showed up at my house two times before this happened, claiming people called from my home when I was the only one home. And at the time, I was the only one even staying there. I was the only one, just me and my dogs, right? And he claims, pulls up in my property. Oh, somebody called me. You want to tell me what's going on? Somebody called me. I said, ain't nobody called you from here, buddy. He claimed, oh, well, we got location tracker. It says it was called from here. Well, I don't know what to tell you because it wasn't me. And you can ask my neighbors. Ain't nobody been here, right? And also, I had a video of this same person who called the police on me, broke into my garage one night and started my motorcycle up, revved it up, and then took off and left it running. I didn't know. I was in my house listening to music, and it was loud enough that I didn't know. And then when the music stopped, I heard the motorcycle running. I was like, oh, what is that? You know, so I look out, or I didn't even think, and I go to let the dogs outside. And when I open the door to let the dogs outside, I hear from my garage my motorcycle running. I go out there and see the door open, motorcycle sitting there running, which will damage a motorcycle, air-cooled motor, right? And you know, it so happens that she had her daughter record her do this and sent me a video of it. And I'll have to see if I still have that. I got the video, but I got to see where it's at. All my stuff's a mess right now. And so I tell these guys, the second night they're trying to throw me in jail, I say, hey, you know what? You're allowing somebody at my home that does not belong there and tell me I can't be there, and you're ignoring, and you're allowing somebody that's damaging my property and has damaged plenty of my property. This is the reason I had to kick her out to begin with, is because you're breaking stuff in the house every time you want to get mad. You're destroying things, and you're a very destructive and violent person, okay? And that's what, you know, led to me kicking her out to begin with. Well, she's vindictive and didn't like that one bit. So she found a way to throw me in jail because she knew the system. And we'll get to just how dirty it gets, you know. And the officer refused to see that evidence. Oh, well, you have to handle that later. I said, no, this is, you're supposed to be investigating this supposed crime of domestic violence, supposed crimes going on at my home. You're supposed to be investigating that. I'm trying to show you evidence and you're refusing to see it. Well, anyways, so as it turns out, the alleged victim felt, you know, was either trying to cover her tracks or a sense of decency came over her. She made it clear, and it's even in the officer's reports, that that's not how it went down, and she refused to give them a written statement, an official statement. And then she even went to the prosecutor, Mr. Troy Essex, and told him that she was not harmed, there was no domestic violence, and that it wasn't right that that there was a temporary protection order on there. She wanted it, demanded it be removed, and he refused to do it. He told her, you know, according to her statement, he told her that he refused to do it, and that because he needed that to make me convince me to take a deal, and that I deserved to hit rock bottom, you know. And so, you know, as this case is going on, I'm living in my truck because I tried to seek shelter at my brother's house, and you dirty bastards went ahead and ran me off from there. So clearly you're going to cause me problems wherever I go. So I just start living in my truck through, you know, like I say, it's November going into December, all the way through to February. I was living in my truck, and I wasn't dare to contact this person because as far as I know, everything they're telling me is the truth. You know, they're telling me you're claiming this and that, and I'm not going back to jail, right? So so we trust our officers, right? We trust our sheriffs, and it used to be the sheriffs were more trustable than any of the other law enforcement agencies. And but as I find out, is that Officer Little is turns out he is having online interactions with the alleged victim up until the time I was arrested. Then they deleted each other to keep that from coming to light. But he was having online interactions with the alleged victim until the time, so, I mean, what was the reason that he was the one that showed up every time to my house? And he was the one sent to, we'll get to this in a minute. Anyways, and Officer Mosier was related to the alleged victim. I didn't know none of this at the very point in time. And so these are both conflicts of interest, right? And I make this clear to my lawyer when I realized it, and my lawyer ignores it. My lawyer goes on through this case, keep trying to talk me into a deal, and convinces me that they have all this evidence against me, that she's claiming this and that, and the evidence shows this and that. Not telling me what he really has. So what we have here, right here, is this is my motion to withdraw plea. After I realized my lawyer had screwed me over, and he held it out. I tried to file a direct appeal, but he held this evidence from me. So when the case gets all said and done, he finally talks me into a deal, making me think I suggest you never take a deal, and and here's what, I was betrayed by my lawyer. I trusted my lawyer. I paid him money. I should be able to trust him within the law, right? I trusted him, and he betrayed me, and he held evidence, kept this evidence of my innocence from me that could have my case thrown out. And then after I take the deal, then they drop the court order and I'm allowed back in my house, and find out while I was kicked out of my house that this alleged victim moved her stuff in, right? And this was all okay and allowed by the officers, by the judge, by the prosecutor, and by my lawyer. He kept telling me the whole time he would, let me know about my next pretrial. Look, dude, here's what I want to know. Here's my biggest problem. I was kicked out of my house, and it's not that's not right. What are you going to do? And well, that's the way this system works. I'm sorry, that's the way it goes, right? And this is what my lawyer's telling me. Okay, nobody's given me any law that confirms any of this, right? And and I keep telling him, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, we'll see. It's kind of up to her if she wants to leave, but we'll talk to the victim's advocate and see if they want to pressure her to leave, which is a lie. It comes out that's a lie, okay? It wasn't up to her, it was up to me. They had no right to kick me out of my home. And the officer, the second night that arrested me for going into my home, and I did not go into my home, but he claims I did. And his claim that I went into my home is because he found a bag of my own clothes in my truck, right? So what? They're my clothes, and that's my house. And the fact of the matter is, it don't even matter. I could have went in there right in front of them. And the fact of the matter is, it was an unlawful protection order. And I'll show you on the protection order. I'll just show this one part where it's filled out and it says, hold on, we'll get to that in a minute. So I keep telling my lawyer, what are you doing to get me back in my home? And he, gives me the runaround. Well, finally so I'm living in my pickup truck through all of winter, taking the harshest conditions, and I went through it. And, this is what you guys expected me to find, but, this is I'm gonna prove my innocence here. Well, my lawyer prevented that. After things said and done, he talks me into, taking a deal because he swears there's too much evidence, a jury will find me guilty, and it's going to cost me. Well, first of all, the pretrial before that, I said, look, I'm tired of this. You keep coming at me with a deal. I said, you go tell that prosecutor that he drops this case, or I'm going to sue him because my rights are severely being violated. Well, I'll make sure he knows that. He says, well, then 2 weeks later, I get a call from my employer not to show up to work until they have a chance to meet with me. And they wait 5 days later and then call me again and say, we're ready to meet with you. When they meet with me, the owner of the company tells me she starts prying into my personal life and talking to me about what's going on with my legal matters. And I told her, if you must know, it's because of corrupt sheriff's department. And she immediately gets angry at me and says, you know how many people claim that? I said, you know how many times it's probably true? And I said, furthermore, my personal life is not a matter of my employment here. Okay, well, as it turns out, my employer has their managing members are members of city council, which would have been affected had I went through with a lawsuit against the assistant city law director, right? And one of the managing members is, at least one of them, is connected to the sheriff's department. So the sheriff's department and the city law department are what would have been named and liable in my lawsuit against them for violating my rights. And because if we go by the officer's reports, he really had no right to even show up to my work. And his investigation concluded before he showed up to my work that there was no domestic violence, and that she admitted by the time he got there that she was not harmed, and I was not doing nothing in a violent manner. The case concludes, and I get back to my home, and allowed to go back to my home. Of course, the alleged victim's there, and she knows I'm gonna be upset. What are you doing still in my home, right? After doing this to me, after calling the police on me and making my life hell. And I want to let you know right now. Or she says, oh, well, what happened? Did they drop it? I said, no, I ended up having to take a deal. She goes, what are you talking about? And then she shows me this right here. It's this right here, her affidavit. She fills out an affidavit right here, 3-page affidavit, right? And her affidavit confirms all the stuff I was saying to begin with, and it's her only sworn testimony. And she gave that to my lawyer because, and her reason, she reached out to my lawyer because she told the victim's advocate and the guy acting as prosecutor, Troy Essex, told both of them that right from the start, said, hey, this ain't right, this needs to get changed right now, this needs to be, and by all means, he should not be allowed, should not be kicked out of his home or not allowed to communicate with me. And because they ignored that, she finally reached out to my attorney and said, I don't know what to do, so he had her fill out and notarize an affidavit. Refuses to show me this affidavit. My lawyer never told me about this affidavit, never showed me what was in it. And there's, so because of that, I contact him and I say, whoa, I want a copy of my case file, boy. I want to know what's up here. Oh, yeah, by all means, you can do that. And you have a right to appeal. So he stalled the release of it till it was after the time's up. You only got so much time that you can file your direct appeal. And so because of that, I file a motion to withdraw plea, and that's something we'll get into in another video, and I'll show you how this is done, but that's what we got right here, motion to withdraw plea. And this motion that I had done, I put a lot of research into it, and how to do this stuff properly, and it's more professional than anything my lawyer turned in on my case, and it's more accurate than anything. But this is the motion to withdraw plea, and we'll get into this later on in another video on how to fill this out, and I will hopefully soon enough be getting these templates put up on my website where you can download the template and use it not just for a motion to withdraw plea, but for any other kinds of motions or court proceedings. And the templates will be there, and you won't even have to. I had to figure out how to design this template and everything else to be within standards. It's got to be, things have to be the way, or it gets thrown out, right? So I went through all this research, studied all this stuff to figure all this out, and I turned in this motion to withdraw plea. And in this, it proves all the things that the court, that when I turned in this withdrawal plea, the judge the honorable judge should have read this and said, okay, this is a good enough reason to withdraw your plea. And the withdrawal plea only puts it back to where it was. It means I got to continue fighting and prove my innocence, right? But the thing is, they knew they couldn't. So this is the motion to withdraw plea, but we'll get into that later on how to do these motions and stuff. But I want to get down here to the exhibits I put in here and show you some of the evidence that I filed under ineffective assistance of counsel. It is a very good reason to withdraw your plea. It's what you need, one of the things you need to prove to withdraw your plea, that I had ineffective assistance of counsel. And you know, and it cites the laws. You got to know how to cite the laws, and you got to understand the law that's revolving around your case, right? Because as it finds out is, as I kept saying to my lawyer and to everybody, hey, you don't have a right to, and I'll get a copy of this posted up, is you don't have a right to kick me out of my home. And right here we have on the temporary protection order, the court also finds as provided in ORC 2919.26 D1, the court, upon its own motion, hereby issues a temporary protection order as a pretrial condition of release, as it finds that the safety and protection of the alleged victim or other family or household member of the alleged offender may be impaired by the continued presence of the alleged offender, which was, they did not find that. So we go up to here and let's check this out. We'll go to Ohio Laws and Administrative Rules, Section 2919.26, as stated in his in the judge's reasoning for kicking me out of my home, right? And he says, he cites D1. So we'll go down here, 2919.26 D1, and we'll find this here. And D1 says, upon the filing of a complaint or indictment that alleges a violation of section 2909.06, 2909.07, 2911.12, or 2911.211 of the revised code, if the alleged victim is the violation of the violation was a family or household member at the time of the violation, a violation of municipal ordinance that is substantially similar to any of those actions, if the alleged victim of the violation was a family or household member at the time of the violation, any offense of violence, if the alleged victim of the offense was family or household member at the time of the commission of the offense, or any sexually oriented offense, if the alleged victim of the offense was a family or household member, you know, right? The thing is, let's stop right there. First of all, the alleged victim was not a family or household member at the time. I was the only one that was a household member in that home. And secondly, if we get to what the 2909.06, 2909.07, 2911.12, or 2911.211 of the revised code, Ohio revised code, right? I was not charged with any of those, you know, so this did not apply. But even if it did, we now need to go to the same thing right under it is D2. If the court issues a temporary protection order under this section as an ex parte order, it shall conduct as soon as possible after the issuance of the order a hearing in the presence of the alleged offender, not later than the next day on which the court is scheduled to conduct business after the day on which the alleged offender was arrested, or at the time of the appearance of the alleged offender, pursuant to summons, to determine whether the order should remain in effect, be modified, or be revoked. The hearing shall be conducted under the standards set forth in Division C of this section. Okay, and we go down to Division C. Oh, wait a minute, I gotta go up for that, right? Division C. Hold on, let's find this here. C1, as soon as possible after the filing of a motion that requests the issuance of a temporary protection order, but not later than 24 hours after the filing of a motion, the court shall conduct a hearing to determine whether to issue the order. The person who requests the order shall appear before the court and provide the court with the information that it requests concerning the basis of the motion. If the person who requests the order is unable to appear, and if the court finds that the failure to appear is because of the person's hospitalization or medical condition resulting from the offense alleged in the complaint or indictment, another person who is able to provide the court with the information it requests may appear in lieu of the person who requests the order. If the court finds that the safety and protection of the complainant, alleged victim, or any other family or household member of the alleged victim may be impaired by the continued presence of the alleged offender, the court may issue a temporary protection order as a pretrial condition of release that contains terms designed, whatever. What I've already described there, what we've already found there is under the law, they did not have a right to issue a protection order on its own motion because there was no hearing, first of all, no hearing at all. And there was no one harmed, and all the evidence proves that. And there was no reason to find the safety. They did this on their own without following the law, and they used ordinance that did not apply to what I was charged with. Okay, so this is the biggest problem in my case is you kicked me out of my home. You took over the rights to my home. You took away my rights. You took away due process of court by not having that hearing, and instead just said, oh, we're just going to kick you out of your home, and we're going to use 2919.26 as our reasoning, and we're not even going to follow what in order to use that requires. Okay, the judge violated my due process rights by doing that. You trust a judge and you get betrayed by these elected officials, right? These are supposed to be the most honest people in our society. Well, we'll go back here now and we'll go down my motion. Like I said, we'll get to the motion later on in another video and how to do these motions. Right now I'm just talking about, betrayal. And these are exhibits that I've submitted that I found that my lawyer had all of this stuff. And first we'll go to Exhibit A, and that's from Officer Little, says on 11/11/2021 at approximately 8:27 at my address, right, in Defiance Township, Defiance County, Ohio, defendant Lawrence Steele did knowingly cause physical harm to the victim, a household member. The defendant admitted to pushing the victim, and I did not admit to pushing the victim. That's the first thing, is that's not the first thing. The first thing is I did not knowingly cause physical harm to anyone. No physical harm was caused. And that he put on his affidavit for my arrest that I knowingly caused physical harm to another person, and that I admitted to pushing the person, and I never admitted to pushing the person. And we'll get to okay, so we'll go to that was Exhibit A. Now we'll go to Exhibit F that I submit. No, right? Exhibit G that I submitted down here is this is from Officer Little, the one who was having interactions, online interactions with the alleged victim. And now hit the page that goes to the prosecutor in the court. So the very next morning when I'm in jail and they're telling me I'm not allowed in my home and they're putting a temporary protection order on me, they have this right here. And I submitted this in my motion to withdraw plea, and I submitted it to my appeals, and they're ignoring it, right? And here's the factors of prosecution in court. Investigating officer observed signs of evidence of physical harm to the victim that arresting officer believes is a result of the offense. No. He circled no, right? Arresting officer believes that the suspect had possession or control of deadly weapons or dangerous ordnance at the time of the offense was committed. No, right? Arresting officer reasonably believes that the suspect presents a credible threat of serious physical harm to the victim or another person if released on bail before trial. No, right? That was submitted by Deputy Austin Little to the court, and they had this in their presence, and they still chose that I was believed to be a threat, even though he says he didn't believe I was a threat, but he still arrested me. The point is, at this very moment, that the acting prosecutor, Troy Essex, assistant city law director, right, and the judge should have said, we're sorry, you shouldn't have been in jail. You know, we're going to drop this case because obviously no domestic violence happened, right? And no, instead they put worse orders on me and then turn around and arrest me and claim that I wasn't allowed to be in my home, and which I was not, but they didn't have a right to tell me I wasn't. So the fact of the matter is, it was an unlawful temporary protection order, and you do not have to follow unlawful orders. The fact of the matter is, I could have walked in my home right in front of the cops and said, you know, that's not a lawful order. Of course, I didn't understand all how the laws was working at the time. I had to look into all this after I fired my lawyer and had to pursue this on my own. But how deep does the system go? Even the appeals court is now trying to say nothing's on the record. Well, right here I'm showing you I submitted this motion to withdraw plea to the Defiance County Municipal Court before it went into appeal. I submitted this, and all of this I submitted with the exhibits. That puts it on the record. How is it not on the record? You know, so, you know, you're not going to beat these people. This is the problem. Is this the dangers we're facing in this country right now? Is they are all protecting each other as high as you want to go, and they're allowing all kinds of unlawful bullcrap to be going on, right? Now, if we go to Officer, we'll go to Officer Mosier, who was related to the alleged victim, and then him own self said, and that's what tipped me off. I never even knew it, never even thought about it until he said, well, we're not related, just so you know. Why would I think that, you know? Well, so he submits on his sworn affidavit, which shows right here that it was notarized and turned in. What I'm saying by that is my lawyer had this. This was in my case file, and my lawyer refused to tell me about this. And it says, the facts tending to establish the probable cause for the issuance of a warrant of arrest of Steele Lawrence P. as follows. On 11/13/21, at approximately 3 o'clock, 1500 hours, right, in Defiance Township, defendant Lawrence Steele did recklessly violate the terms of the protection order, blah, 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 right? This is what's key right here. 11/13/2021, signed by Benjamin Mosier, signed and notarized and turned in, and my lawyer knew this, and that right there could have had that whole thing thrown out. It could have had that whole thing thrown out and my case dropped, because he arrested me and accused me of this on 11/12. On 11/13, I was already sitting in jail. He signed and had it notarized, and then Judge John T. Roars went ahead and went along with it, and all of them knew that I was sitting in jail at the time that this was going on, right? And that's the first mistake by officer. Then we got the alleged victim. That all of this exhibits my lawyer had in his possession and refused to tell me about it, right? And instead talked me in to taking a deal. This was a paid lawyer. This is what kind of scum we got. This is what I'm telling you. Your lawyers are lying to you. You cannot trust them. The officers are lying to you. You cannot trust them. You should not ever speak to them, no matter what. Just tell them you ain't saying a word. You don't speak to officers, and throw me in jail if you want to. But you know what? I'm not speaking to you. Whatever. And whether I'm not trying to tell you should trust a lawyer either, you know. But so now, if we look at this is the alleged victim's affidavit. This is one page of it. Excuse me. But right here, I refuse to provide the officers a statement that responded to the incident at my residence of the night of November 11, 2021, and in fact did not want any officers to respond whatsoever. Supposedly she's told them that she didn't want them to respond, right? I refuse to provide officer statement after the incident of November 11 because I did not believe charges should have been filed against Lawrence Steele. I'm providing this on my own free will, blah, 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 right? My lawyer had this and did not use it in my defense. and it proves that I was not guilty. I did not hurt somebody, and did not do anything with any violent intentions. Then we have, okay, I already showed that on 11:13, right? And well, what's good about that is here, Exhibit E is, we could go on to this, and if you see this stuff underlined here, Miranda rights, that's my lawyer underlined that. This was in my case file, and he had this underlined, so he's seen this whole 3 paragraphs of stuff of the officer's statement, that he did all of this stuff before reading me my Miranda rights. Threw me in a cop car, handcuffed me, threw me in a cop car, drove me from the spot he arrested me to my home to go and question the alleged victim about if I was in the house or not, and all this stuff before reading me my Miranda rights. So he admitted to violating my Miranda rights, and my lawyer caught it and underlined it and never said a word about it, right? Never used it in my defense. Furthermore, in his statement, he says that the alleged victim reported that around 15:30, she had left the residence. Otherwise, she was there up until 3:30, and never saw me at the house, right? But meanwhile, his statement to arrest me says at 3 o'clock that I was in the home. Well, how did I go in the home at 3 o'clock when the alleged victim was there and said that I was, that all of this my lawyer had and did nothing to help me with it. And this is what I'm, showing people, that this is what I've shown to the appeals court, this is what I've shown to the court. The judge is on record saying that he will leave it up to the Troy Essex whether to approve my my motion to withdraw plea. Well, it's not up to Troy Essex. Troy Essex is who I'm against, is who's against me. It's up to the judge to decide, did I fill out this motion to withdraw plea properly, and did I prove enough case that my lawyer was incompetent and talked me into a deal, and therefore I have a good enough reason to want to come out of that deal and reverse my plea, right? And it does, and I've proven it, and this is all the proof right there, and we'll get more into the motion withdrawal plea later, but that's what I'm saying. This judge, dishonest judge, we think that the judges are supposed to be so honest and honorable, and he should have judged on this and said, yeah, we're going to allow you to withdraw your plea because you've proven under the law, under what the law requires for the two-prong test under let's see, ineffective assistance of counsel right here, Strickland versus Washington, right? Under the two-prong test, that I have to prove that the counsel's performance was deficient and that deficient performance prejudiced the defendant, right? Well, of course, had I known any of this evidence existed, I certainly would not have entered a deal, because the whole time I was saying I'm innocent and you guys had no right to kick me out of my home, and that was my biggest thing. I don't care what you want to accuse me of. You want to accuse me of domestic violence, you don't got a right to kick me out of my home, make me live in my truck, right? While forcing me to work and pay all the bills for that place, while somebody else gets to live freely there, right? That's what I'm saying, so I was screwed over by all these honest people, by the person I trusted and put my heart into and trusted this person, and because they were vindictive and and I never could pay a good enough price the way they expected. Now my life needs to be ruined, and you're going to show me and you're going to get me charged for a crime I didn't commit, because you know how the system works. And I don't think she was so much trying to get me charged for a crime. She was trying to prevent me from kicking her out of my house again, right? And but because she played her games, it turned out to ruin my life. And so I trusted that person, and then the cop shows up and I'm trusting him to be an honorable person of the law, and I say, no sir, that's not what happened. Here's what happened. I should have not done that. That's the truth. I should have not done that. But he's lying and said that I admitted things that I didn't. And if he was honest, he would have been like, okay, yeah, you're right. First of all, I shouldn't have showed up here to your work to harass you when during my investigation I found out that no domestic violence happened. But instead I pursued the matter and showed up to your work. And so but I trusted this guy. No, because he's telling me she's saying all this stuff, right? He didn't tell me that so I trusted him, and I said, no, here's what happened, and everything I explained to you is within my property owner rights, sir. I'm, comma situation, and I got the fuck out of there to keep it from getting worse, and I brought my ass to work, right? But that wasn't good enough. Then the next day, even though you guys had no lawful right to kick me out of my home, and the law was not followed there, you're going to use that and claim it's the law, and then throw me in jail another 4 nights, and make me rot in jail another 4 nights, right? That I don't belong there. And when I get out, or when I show up in court again, I question it. And then I go and pay a lawyer, okay? And this prosecutor, this evil prosecutor, Assistant City Law Director Troy Essex, decides to screw me over. And he gets buddy-buddy with my lawyer, and my lawyer hides this evidence from me. I trusted these people, these honorable people of the law, right? And then none of that's proven to be anything, so I trust appeals court judges. I'm like, surely there's got to be some honest judges here, judge this on the law. And what do? They throw me under the bus and say, too bad, deal with it. Nothing's on the record. Well, how is that? And we'll get to what the record actually is in another video, maybe when we talk about this motion to withdraw plea. But I assure you, anytime you're in court, you make damn sure that you want everything on the record. And I told the judge I wanted it on the record before my second appeal, and that didn't matter. They're all protecting each other. And so, I trusted all of these people, and I trusted my employer, because the whole time while I was charged, nobody was saying, they weren't frowning upon me or anything until the day I threatened to sue. Then 2 weeks later, they call me in the office to fire me, right? They call me and tell me not to show up to work, and then call me back into the office to fire me because they're going to make sure I can't sue their people. You can't trust any of these people. The thing is, every betrayal, I was betrayed by every single one of these people, right? And this is all I'm saying. Every betrayal begins with trust. Don't trust no one. Anyways, thanks for watching. I got some other better content I'm working on, but I wanted to, this is the anniversary of me sitting in jail for stuff I never even done for unlawful reasons, and not one of them was ever honest enough to say, hey, this is wrong, we're just going to drop it. To this day, now they've taken away my home and taken away all of my personal property, even the clothes off my back, right? The clothes I'm wearing now is donated stuff to me, because I'm not allowed to have any of my property. They refuse to give it back. The sheriff's department stole it, armed force. And what's more is every one of these people that acted against me, Officer Little, who arrested me just because he wanted to have some time alone with the alleged victim, is what I must be figuring, because he was having online interactions with her and was dead set on me being, when we get back to this report from Officer Mosier, who's related to the alleged victim, he said, he says in his thing, we'll go. Austin Little's supplemental narrative that he turned in says on 11/12/2021, Defiance County, Ohio, I responded at the request of Sergeant Mosier to assist with a possible protection order violation. And that's a lie. That's a lie, because the recording would show that Officer Mosier come running up to my truck and said, hey, Deputy Little seen you drive by and wanted me to come and arrest you. Why was Deputy Little so concerned about me being in the area? Okay, he's the one that asked for me to be arrested. But the thing is, the only thing they release is the 911 call, is because the 911 call is the only thing that makes me look bad. The rest of it, when I've tried, I told my lawyer to get it, and he claims it don't exist. And then I tried on my own through media defiance, through Freedom of Information Act, to get all the recordings. I asked for every last recording for this case. You know what? They claim nothing exists from either of the officers. No recordings exist. Why is that? Because they incriminated themselves, and they know it, and it proves, all this stuff, my stuff is proven, and they won't release any of that stuff. You can't trust any of them. Not your lawyer, not, when I threatened to sue, then I got fired from my job because my employer was in on it too. You can't trust the cops. You got to take a look at the person you're with in your life, at the people in your life, whether it be whatever it is, friends, significant other, relatives, whatever. If they're the type that would do this to you, you got to cut them out of your life, because you might not be able to trust them. You definitely can't trust the police. You definitely can't trust the prosecutors, the lawyers, or the judges. And that's a fact, and my case proves all this stuff. Every betrayal begins with trust. Wrongful trust, right? Anyways, thanks for watching, and talk to you later.